I've got to be hushed because I'm entering a church. A church in which somebody has nicked the roof. That someone was Henry VIII, and this is Rievaulx Abbey, one of the many wonderful abbey ruins in North Yorkshire. Today, it's a lovely, romantic place to walk around. To walk, as Wordsworth wrote, amid the mournful waste of prostrate altars, shrines defaced, and floors encumbered with rich show of fretwork imagery laid low.
Rievaulx was the first Cistercian abbey in Yorkshire, the first monks coming from France. It was said that the monks swarmed here like a hive of bees.
It was founded around 1132 by Walter Lesbeck, who lived at Helmsley, just over the hill.
Helmsley is a pretty market town on the southern edge of the North Yorkshire National Park. It's a popular place for tourists during the summer months and just the right size for a pleasant walk round. This can be thirsty work, so fortunately it is well endowed with tea shops.
Just as well.
You can see how the town developed. Originally it grew up at a river crossing where the road from the east coast met the important trade road from the north on the way to York in the south. And like in so many towns, the crossing place was a logical spot for a market town to develop, the first few houses sheltering under the walls of the castle.
Where I'm going next, when I finish this.
The castle was built at the end of the 12th century. It must have been a mighty place, with two huge ditches, high inner walls, and this impressive keep. It was slighted in 1644 when it fell to Cromwell's troops, which explains its present ruinous state. But I'm pleased to report that it's in considerably better hands now, in the imaginative and competent possession of English heritage, recently formed and providing an attractive new image to the care of historical monuments.
And in here, despite Cromwell and his men, there are clues as to the luxury in which the 16th century occupants lived. The remains are only fragmentary, but enough to give an impression of what it must have been like. The panelling is particularly rich, and characteristic of the middle of the 16th century are these use of blank arches. Equally typical are the fluted pilasters which rise up to the cornice above. In many Elizabethan houses you'll find plaster friezes like this one. Even the motifs are common all over the country. The use of the fleur-de-lis, the seahorses, framing very high relief plaster coats of arms. The plaster ceiling is typical too, in which panels are surrounded by geometric patterns of moulded ribs.
By the time that room had been decorated, the wealthier citizens of the town had begun to build themselves houses of considerable grandeur. This is Canon's Garth, built in the 15th century. It's a hall house. Originally the centre block behind the porch would have been a great hall, open to the roof. The timber-framed wings and porch were added a little later, and they seem unusual to us as the timber has been left its natural colour. It's this, and the gabled dormers with decorative barge boards, which make the house so picturesque. It's a strong house, with solid stone walls and roof. Down in the market square, another 15th century house displays beautiful zigzag pattern timbers and some careful restoration work. Helmsley's Market Square is a very attractive place. The Black Swan and its neighbour the Crown, with their ivy, hanging baskets, and old inn signs, really give visitors that sense of having arrived. On the west side of the square there are just quite ordinary houses, except that they're lifted by the town hall, which isn't old at all. It was built in 1901 by Temple Moore, an excellent architect. The square is full of pleasant buildings, small shops, old cottages of different heights, and the whole thing together makes a most attractive composite picture. There are some signs, though, of careless modernisation. This bistro, with its strange window eyebrows, is somewhat out of place. But the petrol station next door adds colour and activity, a pleasing 20th century touch.
Here's a nice contrast in design. The original bow window, finely detailed, delicately curved glass, and the beautifully finished cornice at the top, all framed by these attractive flower baskets and planters. And next door, part of the same building, the modern replica. No cornice at all, and stuck right in the middle, a great ventilator. And nothing like such a satisfactory finishing touch.
There's nothing out of place in Buckingham Square. This is a fine 18th century 5-bay house. And across the road, the 2-storied Buckingham House, oh, what an address, stands rather aloofly from its neighbours.
Now, this would be a fine house to find in any town. Why? Well, partly because it's big, 3 stories, and raised up from the street on these moulded steps up to the elegant Georgian door surround. The rusticated coins give extra dignity, and so does the cornice at the top. But beyond all of these things, it's fine because it's all there. It's still unaltered. From the chimneys right down to the ground, it's still the way it was built.
At the back, the house has been altered, but in no way spoilt, and the round-headed stair window still looks out onto the beautiful garden. But tourists don't come to Helmsley for fine houses. It's the lovely little cottages that give the town its considerable character. There's a pleasing jumble of all kinds of cottages, from the plain, honest country dwelling, to the picturesque, to the Gothic, and to this modern development which uses traditional materials, echoing the vernacular style around them, and yet without losing sight of their 20th century origins. And finishing off nearly every house, glorious pantile roofs, row upon row of handmade tiles, weathered to a most delicious colour, traditional in this part of England and contributing considerably to Helmsley's many charms.
It's got everything the discerning tourist needs. Nice shops, sturdy castle, beautiful scenery all around. Like Wordsworth, it moves me to poetry. Beneath those old Cistercian walls, that ancient pile, those ruined halls, the nestling town beside this sylvan lea. It's time I had another cup of tea.